This morning I'm going to discuss attunement. Little Google AI, why not? It's modern world. 2025, AI can help us with many great things, also can harm us in ways we might not expect. Attunement is the act of being aware and responsive to another person or thing. It can refer to matching emotions, understanding perspectives, or creating harmony. Examples of attunement in psychology: when a parent matches an infant's feelings to create emotional synchrony. In relationships, when someone is able to identify what another person is thinking or feeling. In business, when a business is made aware of changing trends. In sleep training, when a caregiver adapts their behavior to support their child's ability to fall asleep. So, with AI, the trend for attunement is it seems to be the pattern is mother to child, or maybe parent to child. In D&D, when an item connects with the character's essence. So it's like forming a connection, forming a bond. I'm going to go into where my personal sense of attunement kind of really took hold is reading Morals and Dogma by Pike. I know he was maligned as a racist, but it's kind of like, there's neither here nor there. He may have been. He's quoted as saying certain things for one set of people and different things for another set of people. He was like a lawyer. He was one of the first, white dudes to represent Native Americans, in court and stuff like this. But then he had other opinions about other different types of people. Whatever. I was just reading his book to try to gain, a deeper understanding of what was going on. With that said, it's far from the first book on esoterica that I've ever read, and it's far from the last. So basically what he said, he gave three things. He said to stay humble, which is that's common sense. If you can stay humble, even when you've achieved great things, you're still very, very, very powerful. Humility is, especially in this day and age, if you can stay humble, you can dodge a lot of shit, especially when it comes to synchronicity. Because synchronicity, the black and the white, is it could be a son of a bitch if it catches you in the right way. But going back to attunement, you're forming a connection. You're reaching out, and then maybe due to the nature of quantum, what you're reaching out to is also reaching out to you. I don't know if that has to do with the law of attraction. I never read that. I probably should, but I haven't needed it. So what Pike says is that, to do what his organization does, and I'm profane, by the way, just a disclaimer, I'm going to claim ignorance on a lot of this stuff other than, a few things that are written in Morals and Dogma. His attunement is to a divine, but it's a specific type of divine. It's a divine unknowable. I've heard unknowns postulated by Donald Rumsfeld and that kind of thing. So we're talking Secretary of Defense type stuff, where he's trying to explain to people we got known unknowns, and then we have unknown unknowns. And you lens that against religion. Take Christianity, they're attuning, maybe not attuning, but they're praying, they're finding connection with God. And then people, atheists would claim God as such. Christians will claim God as such. The Jewish claim God as such. They wrestle with God, as a matter of fact. Israel, the name means to wrestle with God, and the Muslims, and so on and so forth. There's no shortage of people's definition of God. So the word itself gets kind of dicey, because people are pulling this word in many different directions, some good and some bad. So Pike's wording was a divine unknowable. Now some believe in the higher self. So even if you're attuning to a higher aspect of yourself, you're making a connection with your higher self. There's psychologists and behavioral analysts who believe in, and like David Eagleman, neuroscientist, who does like really awesome experiments, realizing the importance of the future self. So there's a couple different directions you can go. Like attuning to a higher self, a higher form of your own consciousness, is like the basis for a lot of Eastern philosophy, and religion too. There's dogmas all over, and dogma basically means shared belief. So, if you're a Christian, you might be attuning to the Christian God, you know what I mean? But semantically, the words kind of get in the way, and that's kind of a problem as far as attunement is concerned. But it's like there's definitely aspects of empathy tied into this. It's hard to put these, put it directly into words. I had just woken up from a dream, or not. I had just woke up, and the notion to discuss attunement had come to me. I should probably make it more clear and concise, but in lieu of my journal, putting this up real quick, there's no secrets here. Morals and Dogma, fairly well known, open source. You get it on Amazon. There's no secrets there. So divine unknowable, you're basically you're attuning your mind to something greater, and we're talking beyond the language of a three-letter word like God. You know what I mean? We're talking about in maybe Pike's sort of cipher, would be called an architect, or a divine creator would be a common thing, but something above the concept that people are using in a more mundane way, or say common prayer practice, what have you. You're going up, elevating, which is it kind of folds into the opposite of depression. I see a lot of people talking about antidepressants and stuff like that, and maybe that's why it's prescient to speak on this today, now, because people were talking SSRIs, and then all the school shooters were on the SSRIs, and antidepressant war, and the opposite of a depression, the opposite of a downward slope, is elevation. You know what I mean? Some people believe you need, if you're taking it literally, it's like there's a valley and there's hills and valleys. You know what I mean? It's like an old, it seems like there's an old saying related to that people have forgotten, or have willfully forgotten, or have been induced to forget collectively, maybe in a dogmatic sense, because we're replacing a lot of our traditional language with new psychotherapy, whatever sells the most pills. You know what I mean? Might be relevant. It might be relevant, because those who can limit what you speak limit also what you can think, many times. So attunement is one way to find. Whoa! I'll run it longer on this one. Is one way you can find elevation to perhaps counteract a depression. Perhaps. I'm far from a trained clinician. 8 years, like some people take 8 years of study and state accreditation to like help people like fix themselves or whatever, and then it's like, here, take this pill forever. I'll see you next week. Let me get that money, Jay, you know what I'm saying? And then a lot of people are like, oh, I'm bummed out all week. How am I going to fix it? Let me go drink it. Let me go to a club. Let me fight for crab legs at the all-you-can-eat buffet. And it's like, nah, you might have to get in touch with your higher self. You might have to try to attune to something greater than yourself. And it might even have to be greater than your group church. It might have to be something above what's going on around you, because human beings can sense that like church is great, but they're fighting over who's got the best Sunday hat, and the dude in the costume up in the front, no matter what denomination it may be, might not have, he wants to keep his community like this. But some people, especially of the more spiritual nature, for them it might not be enough. They might have a higher calling. And attunement is one way to find out if they can. Now, any good magic book starts with disclaimers. You start, messing with things you don't understand, there's definite dangers. There's definite struggles ahead. You know what I mean? In many aspects, if you're gonna seek to go higher, it's the barrel of crabs situation, where if people see you slipping away, or they see you getting, not to say get over on them, it's given such a negative connotation, but I mean just as a natural course of elevating yourself, there are just some people you're gonna get over. You know what I mean? Not to say that you want to trick them, but listen, I'm over your bullshit. You know what I mean? I'm done with it. You can have your bullshit. Me personally, I'm over it. And that's the power of attunement in certain ways. And it's like, even if you don't believe in a faith, or you don't believe in a spiritual world, or whatever the case may be, simply the act of attuning your brain to something you don't know, to something greater than yourself, to something that is perhaps beyond the stars. Maybe it's aliens. Maybe it manifests as aliens. Maybe it is, some kind of divine thing. But whatever it is, for other reasons that maybe I'll go into, the language and the semantics of it, which is also a belief of Pike, and also a reason I believe the founders never really picked a language for the U.S., is that the semantics of it kind of muddies the waters, so to speak. So everybody's fighting over the meaning of God, what God means to them, and it's like, you're kind of missing the point altogether. It's like it's about truly trying to connect with something that is unknowable. And if you believe you know it, is it really unknowable? And so on and so forth, until an elevation is reached. An important thing with that is you can get high on life like that. I mean, I've spent days, I've spent weeks, as difficult as it is in this city, because barrel of crabs, you can get high on life like that. People say, oh, I'm high on life. It's like, nah, I'm just elevated. Things are good. Things are clicking. Synchronicity. Everything's hunky-dory. You know what I mean? I'm enjoying an elevated state of mind. And, You know, it's very difficult to do with a 9 to 5. It's very difficult to do if you're scurrying around worrying about different things like that. And there's a whole process, and there's a whole philosophy behind at least how I do it and how others have done it and have documented it. And it goes far beyond like the Lululemon, just, it goes way beyond that. And it takes years of, I'm not going to say discipline. The way I did it was like full surrender to my own nature, which has its drawbacks, because to the outside world, it appears like, this guy's a fucking underachiever, what a fucking bum. And it's like, nah, I've been in a long, slow process of getting over the bullshit that in my personal experience doesn't really fucking matter. You know what I mean? Like, you got your stuff and you have your set ways and you have your markers for success in your life. That doesn't necessarily mean the markers for success in my life. Like, I'm more interested in the unknowable. You know what I mean? I want to know, I want to know stuff. And in every good magic book, there's a disclaimer, because, like, if you want to know, you got to be willing, like, there's cost to everything. It's like, are you prepared to go to the fucking brinks of madness? Are you prepared to fucking get deep? You know what I mean? It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint of mind. The amount of willpower needed and the amount of free time and space to do so, and quiet to do so, is in today's modern world, like, you can practice if you got the family and kids thing going on, but like if you got a full plate, you got a busy schedule, there's a reason the holy men went up into the fucking mountains and they needed to just chill. You know what I mean? There's a reason monks eat in silence, and there's a reason why they're up, they go up the mountains where they're not really bothered by everybody passing through. You know what I mean? That's just the nature of, that's the nature of pondering the divine itself. So would I recommend, like, just jumping into it? No. I would definitely find relevant sources due to the nature of synchronicity. Like, if you're looking for something, if you're on a search, you can find it. If you know how to read the signs and put yourself in a situation where you're going to be able to find the relevant material. Basically like a bookstore, like a Barnes & Noble. Sometimes the algorithm can help you. Sometimes, something can just pop out, from the algo. A lot of times you get the sponsored stuff, you might be pages and pages deep. Even like your Twitter feed, like if you attune to something you desire on the algo, it'll pop up, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm looking for a beach toy or something, then it pops up on the phone. The nature of synchronicity in conjunction with 5G, so that's why it's okay if I put this on a video rather than straight to the journal, straight to the book. And so that's like a brief introduction to the nature of attunement and how it relates to attuning to a divine. You can give it a try, but clear the schedule, maybe. It depends on what's going on here. It depends on what's going on over here. Make sure that all your traumas, make sure your trauma is like processed. But people create and destroy their traumas every day. So it's like, living a life free of all trauma is nigh to impossible. So I mean, that's pretty much the crux of it right there. Is like you're attuning higher, whatever that higher may be. If it be God, then let it be God for you. And maybe that'll help it, maybe it won't. Maybe you might come face to face with something that you thought was God, and maybe it's not. And there's a distinct danger to it. But if you start having like a panic attack, but it's manageable, you're in a good spot. You're in a spot of growth. And I done that for years. Things don't always just come easy. And like I said, if you have a super busy schedule, maybe leave it. But if you reach these heights, one thing I will say is that you don't have to hold on to everything. Like if you're up there in dreamland or whatever, daydreaming or night dreaming, be able to put it down. Like you have an insight into the wonders of the universe. Be able to put it down. You don't have to remember everything all at once. You can use a little time magic and say it'll come back to me in time. If there's something specific, like if you feel it's going to fade before you can write it down. Hold on to the relevant stuff, and the rest you can leave or remember it later or fish it up again. Anyways, 20 minutes on Attunement. I could have refined that a little bit better, but I'm kind of happy with it. We'll see if YouTube's happy with it. I just wanted to relay that because like I said, just woke up, washed your face, no breakfast, wasn't feeling it, and that's about it. We'll see how it goes and see how it looks. All right, ta-ta for now.